Welcome to the Recomp Room, and I am Jen Kirsten, online fitness coach for Jennifer Kirsten Fitness. And today we're going to be talking about the core problem being identity and not necessarily discipline. This is something that has come up in my coaching practice for decades, and it is one of the biggest obstacles that people have to move through. And it is this belief that you're not worthy of coaching, you're not worthy of results, not worthy of taking up space in a program. And honestly, that doesn't come from nowhere. So we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of this because what I'm about to say is hopefully going to shift the dial in how you approach your fitness goals and yourself. Over time, this part of your mind gets built slowly, quietly over years of starting over. Maybe it's every Monday, maybe it's September, maybe it's January. You get these fresh starts and then they don't really stick. You get a meal plan, you print it out, you follow it for 4 days, and then life happens and you never open again. And your brain is like a filing system. Every one of those moments get filed, not under, I had a hard week. It's under that I can't proof. You have this proof now that you can't do something. And once that file gets thick enough, your brain stops treating those moments as isolated events. It starts treating them as your identity. This is who you are. This is what you do. You start, you stop, you don't finish things, you don't follow through. And that just becomes who you are. And I see this and I hear this when I'm working with someone who's in this situation where they're struggling with their core identity and they will say things in their check-in, I just need to try harder. I just need to do this. It's like they know the things they need to do, but they just can't do them. They're stuck. And here's where it gets really insidious. Once that belief is locked in your brain, your behavior starts to match it. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because you will never consistently do what a person like you doesn't do. If deep down you believe you're someone who fails at this, your nervous system will find a way to confirm that. Missed check-in, skipped workouts, blew the weekend, drank your face off, ate your face off, see proof, you file it, and that becomes your identity. Where the I'm not worthy belief comes from. So let's talk about this and tie it in. Think about someone who's tried everything. You've done the boot camps, you've hired the trainer, you bought the program, you started the meal prep on Sunday, and by Thursday, the containers are still full in the fridge because the week exploded and you just couldn't. And every single time that happens, you don't think that didn't work. You think I didn't work. That's the shift that does the damage from the plan failed to I failed, from I had a hard week to I am someone who has hard weeks and I just can't get it together. And once you're carrying that story, every new attempt starts with a handicap. And you will know if you are somebody who does this within yourself. You're not learning a new habit, you're trying to override a deeply held belief about who you are and what you're capable of. That's a completely different and significantly harder problem than just not knowing what to eat. This is also why tough love coaching often backfires on someone in that position. When somebody already believes they're not enough, pushing harder doesn't motivate them. It confirms the belief. It adds more evidence to that file in their brain. And this is why, like, I'll hear women say, like, I think I just need a harder approach. I think I need a tougher coach. I need someone who's going to, give me a strict 8 by 11. And this comes up with like macro tracking or being able to move the workouts around. They think that the harder and more stricter it gets, the more the brain's going to wire in, and it actually backfires. There is this like imperfect middle ground. And here's the situation or a scenario I want you to sit with for a little bit here. So let's imagine for a second you had a brutal week. You didn't hit your workouts, your nutrition was all over the place, you're exhausted, you're embarrassed, and the last thing you want to do is send your check-in because what are you even going to say? In fact, like you probably don't even have a coach at this point in time because you are already in that mess and you're like, if I can't get myself on track first, I can't afford to pay for a coach. It's wasting everybody's time and money. So the things that you probably say to yourself is, hey, I failed at everything again. Here's my report. You don't want to say that to your coach, so you go quiet. You don't even bother checking in. Or when you do check in, it's like one line answers. I just got to work harder. Bad week, hard week. But you're not willing to dig into any of the specifics or even see it a different way. You tell yourself you'll do better next week, and then you'll check in. You'll wait until you have something good to show. And that silence is where you lose the progress. And that's where you lose the years because you're too afraid to say you're struggling. And on the flip side of that, you don't want to make the changes that your brain isn't prepared for because your identity is stuck in Loserville. So here's what's actually true. Your coach, if they're a good coach, does not need your best week. They need the messy action one. The ugly check-in is more valuable than the perfect one. The check-in where you spill your guts, the one where you tell them what's really going on, the one where you don't say, fine, good, yes, good, no, I need to work harder, that gets us nowhere. The ugly one tells us something real. It tells us where the friction is. It tells us what's actually happening in your life. It gives us something to work with. The perfect check-in is easy to coach. The hard week is where the real coaching happens. And here's the other piece of this. Showing up at 60%, it's not failure. Disappearing is, okay? Disappearing and going into that mindset of like, when I have something to show for myself, I'll show up. So you don't know, you don't have a strategy to get better at this and you're just going to keep white knuckling it until you do. Growth doesn't pause while you're being imperfect. It's actually happening in the imperfect moments. Every time you send that check-in when you don't want to, every time you do 20 minutes of meal prep when you planned to do it, you are actually choosing a higher version of yourself and a better identity for yourself. You are building evidence, one small proof point at a time, that you are someone who shows up, even when it's hard, even when it's messy, even when you have nothing impressive to report. And that's why I said in my last one, stack those motherfucking wins, because that is exactly where the growth is going to come. The flip side of this is, now I want to be really like honest with you here. I think this is where a lot of coaches get it wrong and where a lot of clients get comfortable in the wrong way. Compassion without accountability is just permission to stay comfortable. And staying comfortable is not the same as healing. It's not the same as growing. At some point, and only you know when that point is, you have to look at yourself honestly and ask, am I struggling or am I opting out? Because those are two very different things. Struggling looks like trying and hitting walls and needing support and adjusting the approach. Opting out looks like deciding in advance that it won't work, not sending the check-in, not doing the workout, and then feeling bad about it as a substitute for actually doing the thing. Both deserve compassion, but one of them but only one of them can actually stay where it is. The other one needs a conversation. It needs a standard, not a punishing one, not a perfectionist one, but a standard that says, I am someone who is worth showing up for, and I'm going to act like it even when I don't feel like it. One of the things with like confidence, and people say, Jen, you're so confident. I'm not. I just refuse to enter a room as if I'm not, because when I do that, my brain is wired for scarcity. And growth lives in tension between grace and standards. Okay. You need to have both with yourself. Too much grace and nothing changes. Too much standard and you burn out or shut down. And I see this among like competitors that are still trying to find balance after all the years of they're done competing. They have this high standard for themselves that even they can't obtain. And they are literally burning themselves into the ground trying to get this year round. The sweet spot is where you hold yourself to something real while also refusing to let one bad week become the story of who you are. So let's talk about this identity shift because this is imperative. So what actually changes things? It's not your perfect meal plan. It's not your perfect training program. It's not finding motivation. It's answering a different question to yourself. Stop asking, why can't I be consistent? And start asking yourself, who do I believe I am? Because the depth of where you're at lies in that question. Not being consistent isn't the question. Consistency is a byproduct of your personal identity. You don't get consistent and then start believing in yourself. You start building self-belief first, then small actions that create evidence and consistency follows. The check-in you send when your week was garbage, that's an identity rep, okay? You are doing dirty reps at building your self-identity. The workout you do at half the planned intensity because something is better than nothing, dirty rep. The moment you choose to tell your coach the truth instead of hiding it, dirty rep. The moment you take that constructive feedback, that instruction to go do something, the opening up your mind to a way that you may be doing something that is getting in your way, and you allow it in, dirty rep. every time you resist, you stay in that old identity. So you're not trying to be perfect. You are trying to be someone who shows up, and that person gets better and gets built one decision at a time in the moments that don't feel significant, in the weeks nobody would post about, in the quiet Tuesday night when you did the thing anyway and you didn't really want to. And the people who are successful and have a physique that they are proud of year round, they get this. For the competitors, and this is like such a huge thing. When you are 150% in, that's the only version of yourself that you know and you trust. I want to speak directly to a specific type of person right now. You've been on stage, you've done the prep, you know what it feels like to be completely dialed in. 4 a.m. cardio, hitting every macro, training through exhaustion, showing up to the gym when normal people would like never even fucking consider it. And of course, it worked. You stood on that stage and you had a result in front of you as proof that when you go all in, you can do extraordinary things. You can wake up every day, the scale's different. You look at your body, it's changed. People are giving you accolades. All of the things are dialed in a time capsule. That experience, it's real. That achievement is real. And it's created something in you that you probably haven't fully examined yet. And that's that 150% is the only version of you that actually produces results. And that is a identity you hold. That the only time you've ever truly succeeded at this is when you were operating at a level that most people will never reach. And so anything less than that doesn't count. Anything less than that isn't really trying. Anything less than that is just, what's the point? Here's the problem with that belief. It's not wrong. It's just totally fucking backwards and incomplete. Yes, you achieved incredible things at 150%. That's true. And you know what? This could be true for not just competitors, but extreme dieters, okay? What that experience also did without you realizing was it tied your entire sense of capability to an unsustainable standard. Prep is not a lifestyle. It was never designed to be. It is a peak output phase with a defined end date. You were built for it during that window. And when the window closes and suddenly the only version of yourself you believed in was the one that you can no longer sustain, everything that falls short of that can feel like failure. So you end up in this impossible position. You can't go full prep. Life won't allow it. Your body can't sustain it indefinitely. And honestly, that level of restriction and output has real costs that don't show up until later on. You also can't bring yourself to operate at 70% because your brain keeps telling you that 70% doesn't work. 70% doesn't get results. 70% is just spinning your wheel. So you do nothing, or you do something inconsistently, or you keep trying to show up 150% to the point every area of your life is crumbling. And then you spiral into shame because it doesn't look like what you know you're capable. Worse off if you're comparing your lifestyle post competing or as a competitor to people who are fabricating their own lifestyles on the internet. Like you are literally mentally masturbating with yourself. It's insane. The competitive version of I'm not worthy doesn't sound like I don't deserve to be here. It sounds like I don't have what it takes right now. So I may as well wait until I do. It sounds like I know what I'm capable of, but this isn't it. It sounds like discipline and self awareness, but it's actually self abandonment dressed up in athletic language. Here's what I need you to hear: the 70% version of you is not a lesser version. It's a sustainable version, and I fucking hate that word. Sustainable is what actually changes your body composition over a lifetime. One prep taught you what you could do at that absolute ceiling, okay? Years of consistent 70 to 80% effort will do things for your metabolism, your muscle tissue, your hormonal health, and your relationship with your body that no single prep ever will and could, because it's the compound effect, because it doesn't require a recovery period afterwards, because it doesn't end. You are not waiting for the right conditions to give you permission to show up. You are not less worthy of a coaching relationship because you're not currently prepping or on a fat loss phase. Your body is not on pause. Your health is not on hold. And the belief that you can only trust yourself when you're operating at 150% is the exact thing that is keeping you from building something that actually lasts. And this is why you are so fucking lost right now. The athletes that I have watched transform the most completely are not the ones who can white knuckle their way through 6 months of prep. They are the ones who figured out how to show up with intention when there was no stage, no deadline, no audience, no external reason to care. That is the harder skill, and that is the one worth building, in my opinion. The other side of this is competitors have this deadline dependency, okay? And if you are one or you know one, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Competitors, you are often praised for sacrifice and for suffering through. So self-care gets filed under like weakness or off-season only. The prep cycle trains you to only deserve rest, food freedom, and recovery after you've earned it through your deadline. Over time, this creates a binary. Either you're all in on a goal or you're doing nothing at all. There's no identity for the in between. So the in between becomes like chaos or collapse. No show on the calendar, no reason to eat hard, eat well, train hard, or check in. This is the time where you kind of go to yourself, like you say to yourself, well, what does it even matter? I'll take care of it once I'm in prep. These are the competitors who have such a contrast between their off-season body and their pre-contest body, and they start using competing as a way to get in shape, or they are struggling with white knuckling and obsessiveness in their off season to the point where they don't even really have an off season because there's no resemblance of balance in between. This is the same worthiness wound wearing a very different outfit. I only deserve structure and support and for my body to be responsive when I'm working towards something that matters. And when there's no stage, no deadline, no external validator, they drift. Worse off, the accolades stop coming in, or you get a bad placing, and then you go right down the rabbit hole of either obsessing more or collapsing more. How competitors and lifestyles clients can actually land in the same place, and this is why I'm winding this into one podcast here. The lifestyle client thinks she doesn't deserve coaching because she's not consistent enough yet, or could be for men too. Primarily, I feel like women have more of a struggle with this. She's waiting until she gets it together before she shows up fully for herself. The competitor thinks she doesn't deserve coaching in the off season or towards healing her metabolism, her relationship with food, or anything outside of competing because she's not competing right now. She's waiting for a goal that's big enough to justify investing in herself. Both of them are doing the same thing. They're outsourcing their worthiness to an external condition while literally living on a hamster wheel. And both of them are going to keep waiting because there will always be a reason the timing isn't quite right. The goal isn't quite right. The week wasn't quite good enough. Your body does not know if there's a show on the calendar. Okay. It really doesn't. Your hormones don't pause between preps. Your muscle tissue doesn't wait for another the next deadline to start mattering. Your metabolic health, your bone density, your cardiovascular system, your mental health, none of it goes on hold because you're in an off season. It's all happening right now. And what you do right now in the quiet season is the season without an audience. That's actually what's going to build you or it's going to erode something. There is absolutely no neutral ground here. The most elite thing you can do, competitor or not, is build a standard for yourself that exists with or without an audience. And for those of you that post on socials all the time, hear me out. If you don't require a stage or a deadline or a post or a challenge or a coach breathing down your neck, it comes from you deciding that you are worth the same care and consistency every month of the year, no matter whether you're in a fat loss phase or a contest prep or not. Because if a show is coming, great. If it's not, it's not. If a deadline is there, it's great. If it's not, it's not. You're still doing the same things because you are worth it regardless. So here's what I want you to do with this. Write down the story you've been telling yourself over and over again about why you keep failing. Not a list of excuses, the actual narrative, and you will know it for yourself. The thing you say to yourself when you miss a workout or blow a meal or go quiet on your coach. Or you say, I don't need a coach because I'm doing great right now. I'll just obsess over my macros and do another prep. Write it down and then ask yourself, is this true or is this just old? Because a lot of us are living inside a story that was written years ago by a version of us who didn't have the tools or the support or the awareness that we have right now. That story is not a life sentence unless you keep choosing it. Send the check in, even if it's ugly. Work with the coach when you're not ready. Go in messy, make it ugly. The uncomfortable truth, send it off. Get the proper help. Stop spinning your wheels because you can't be perfect. Pick one thing this week that you said you would do and do it at whatever fraction of the intended effort is available to you. Maybe it's not a full workout, the 20 minutes, not the perfect meal prep, the one meal. Start building evidence and stacking reps as you show up for yourself, even small, because your nervous system actually needs proof before it believe the story you were trying to tell about who you are. Notice the moment you want to go quiet on your goals or your coach. Notice when you're about to disappear because you don't have anything good to say. That's the exact moment you actually need to reach out. That's the moment you need the help, not next week when you're doing it better, right now. And if you're coming from a competitive background, which 90% of my clients do, ask yourself honestly when the last time was that you took care of yourself outside of a deadline. If the answer is uncomfortable, that's important information. Build one non-negotiable this week that has nothing to do with a goal date, a show, a weight loss challenge, or anyone else's timeline. And then ask yourself this: if 70% of my effort applied consistently for the next 2 years could build something that no single extreme diet or contest prep could ever give me, would I be willing to stop waiting for the conditions that let me go 150%? Because I've got a lot of extreme diet. I've seen like 90% of extreme dieted or done contest prep. And I feel like this identity is such a huge piece of like breaking through to progress because they know they can go 150%, but they continue to spin their wheels there. So if you could get there in 2 years at 70% and be in a body and be in a life that you are happy with, you can do all the things, you can enjoy the cooler at the lake, you can have the life, and you're not in that all or nothing, would you go for it? And I would guess most of you would. So the thing holding you back is this identity and fear. We'll talk about fear another time. Let me know how this lands on you.